Wydick here with another replay. This is Game 4 of the RSL Finals between, on the bottom left, spawning as the blue Terran, it's Startail's Bomber. And on the top right, spawning as the red Zerg, is Startail Life. Currently, Life has a 2-1 series lead in this best-of-7 series. Bomber took game 1, and Life took the next 2. The last game, Bomber tried to build a double-racked proxy close to Life's base. Life was able to scut it out in time, and the rest of the story is basically once the cheese is scouted, it's very difficult for the aggressor to do a lot, and Bomber lost the game handedly. Now, I continuously see Life in the top right here, continuously doing the extractor trick to get the extra drone out. A lot of players don't do it. Seems like Life likes that tactic a lot, so he keeps doing it every game, it seems like. Bomber has a supply depot at his ramp. Now, it looks like Life might be going for a hatchery first. Wait and collect those 300 minerals. Going to mosey down that drone over to his natural. Overlord is coming in to try and scout Bomber's position. Bomber's going for CC first on the high ground. Now, it's interesting because most of the games, in Game 1 and Game 2, Bomber went CC first. In the first game, he went CC on the high ground, and Life went for 10 pool and lost. In the second game, Bomber went for CC on the low ground, and then he lost in a macro game. So other than the last game where Bomber wanted to cheese his opponent, he's been going CC first in every single game. Life is building a spawning pool. It will be complete in about half a minute. The Overlord scouts the CC first and is going to run away. Life is transferring drones. Doesn't have an extractor, so he's not going for Zergling speed. Bomber also doesn't have a refinery and is actually building a third CC without a marine out. So he's going very macro intensive, very heavy economic, economic play. Not sure how this is going to work out. If Life doesn't spot this, then Bomber might be able to get away with this. But he does have this Overlord here, and this Overlord is going to be coming in for a scout in the next minute or so, I think. Bomber's also getting a refinery up. Once again, there's only one Marine. And this is a problem because there's 2 Zerglings coming. And the Zerglings, if they run up the ramp, well, they're not going to run up the ramp. But if they were going to run up the ramp, they'd be able to spot the third CC. Life doesn't even have his third hatchery up. So it's very odd that Bomber's going for this build. Bomber must be banking on Life not being aggressive. And it's paid up to this point. Has a CC finished and is building the orbital command. A few Marines back at home, and the Overlord is not going to bother scouting as of yet. Life is starting his creep spread and has 6 drones in the extractors. This is a very common play to block off your natural, but usually you would build supply depots. In this case, Bomber's elected to build barracks. So Life might be thinking, why are you building so many barracks here? Because generally you build barracks near your main and supply depots here to block off. So it'll be very interesting if Life is thinking if something strange is going on or not. His Overlord is still primed in position. Might be able to scout, and he's building his third. And he's starting off with a Baneling nest. So, it looks like Life thinks something is fishy, and he's going to try and do some sort of Baneling bust. Bomber only has 4 Marines here. He's able to pick off both of the Zerglings before Life is able to react. and he's still building Marines. He doesn't have a reactor. He does have a tech lab researching stim though. And that third CC is just dropping off mules. It hasn't found a third base yet. And that Baneling nest is about to complete in about 10 seconds, and he's going for double Evo chamber with Zergling speed. So I think this is going to be a very, very well-timed attack. Life is going to come in here, try to spot out the third CC, see what's going on. I don't think he saw it. Well, he did. He did see the third CC. So he knows that Bomber was going for a heavy, very heavy economic build. So he's going to lack a lot of army units. And if you take a look at the army supply, they're pretty even. If you take a look at the supply, the Zerg is up close to 10 supply over his Terran opponent. The Banelings are just hanging out at the front, and the Marines are just poking out, checking out if there's going to be any incoming Zerg attacks. And he's actually going to be lifting away these barracks and then start building the supply depot wall I mentioned earlier. But this is a bad time. He's got to lift up those depots, or else the Zerglings might run in. The Zerglings are picking off the Marines. He's able to lift up the depots at the right time, picking off a few SCVs. It looks like 3 SCVs were picked off, maybe a fourth. A fourth is picked off. Actually, 6 SCVs has been killed. So Bomber, with his inopportune lifting of the barracks, actually gave Life that window to go in there and pick off a few SCVs. So Bomber's probably kicking himself, and Life is probably patting himself on the back for reading that play correctly. Stim is completed, and a whole bunch of Marines have been queued up in that barracks. Not sure why this one doesn't have any Marines queued up. Life is expanding his creep. He's expanded his creep quite well, actually. It's gone totally uncontested. Usually Terrans will build Hellions to fight off map control from the Zerg, kill some creep tumors, kill some Zerglings, but in this case, because of that heavy economic build that Bomber opted for, he was only able to get his third up quickly, which gives him a lot more resources through mules, and he's able to produce more SCVs. But he has no map control. And now, once again, the depot is lifted up, and the Zerglings are going to go for a run-by. The depots at the main are blocked off, but the Zerglings are still in there, causing mining time loss and killing a few SCVs. Also, this third is exposed, so the Zerglings might be able to get in there and do a little bit of damage. There's still 3 Zerglings harassing this supply depot, and if the supply depot isn't repaired, it's going to go down. Supply depot goes down, so now he's going to have to rebuild another one. There's actually about 7 SCVs here not doing anything. So Bomber has to fend off these attacks better. He's building an armory, which is interesting. I'm not sure if he's going to be going for Hellbats. Now, in the latest patch, the Hellbats do significantly less damage against light units, so they're good units, they're just not very good units. And like I said before, Life is still expanding the creep. He's doing the ring around Rosie. He's halfway through the map already. Bombers might be finally trying to come out to clear up some of this creep. Hasn't put down the scan yet. Might be able to pick off this queen. He's able to pick off the queen. Stims, and then goes back and finds the Zerglings in between him and his third. He's going to pick off these Zerglings, but here gives a flank attack, and he's got to watch out. There's a whole bunch of Banelings coming in on the right side. He's able to defend off the left side. The mine takes care of a whole bunch of Banelings, and Bomber was able to escape that quite well. He's got a 30 supply advantage now after that engagement, and he's able to pick off a lot of these active and passive creep tumors. So that was a very good engagement for Bomber. Couldn't go much better. There's a flank attempt, and it did not work. And he cleaned up a whole bunch of creep and built up a 25 supply advantage. So Bomber must be quite happy about that. But he does not know that Life has his 4th base up and running. There's no drones, but there will be drones heading there. And he's building up some Banelings. He's going to try again, while going for his 2nd level carapace and attack. So both players are at 1-1. There's no upgrade advantage for either. Zerg is ahead in speed a little bit, so, and there's a wasted scan. It only picks up a few passive tumors on the right side, but he's not picking off any of those tumors. He's going to bury those mines at the top. He's not able to clear any of the tumors, so that was an unfortunate scan in that regard. He's going to pick off a few passive tumors here. There's 2 active tumors here, and Overseer goes down. Going to be able to pick off both the active tumors. The Marines and Marauders are coming in one small pack. The mines are all burrowed. Gonna try and split them up, which is the best way of using them. But here comes a small pack of banelings, and a lot of the mines, their shots have been used up, and actually a lot of the mines went down. So that was not a useful engagement. Got a whole bunch of Zerglings near the natural, but they're going to run away for a second here. While Bomber is still trying to come into the third of life. He's scanning and taking down a few Zerglings, a few banelings at a time. He's got a huge force, but the supplies have evened out. And here comes the Mutalisk. The Mutalisk and the banelings, Zerglings. The banelings pick up and melt a whole bunch of Marines. The supplies are still even, but those are great baneling hits. But still not enough to prevent Bomber from going moseying into his third, picking off the Queen and a few drones. But here come the Mutalisk. The Mutalisk are trying to do everything that they can, but there's no Zerglings or banelings to help them. The Marines eat Mutalisk for dinner. And now there's a slight supply advantage. The Mutalisk come back in with a few banelings and a few Zerglings, and Bomber's going to try and drop off 6 Marines into the main. And his reinforcements have arrived. He has no medevacs with his reinforcements, so he has to be careful if he stims too much. The Mutalisks are coming in, and they're chomping down on all the Marines. There's not that many Marines here, and in the main also all the Marines have been destroyed. Now the Marauders are focusing down the hatchery, but the Mutalisks are going to be able to destroy this squad of units with all the mines and Marines, and now they're all gone. Bomber is still trying to press on the third. He doesn't have any medevacs, or he has 2 medevacs with this small group. Not sure if he's going to be able to do too much against this huge squad of Zerglings and Mutalisks. That's a lot of Mutalisks, and they're going to get picked off here. Life was able to defend his third after constant attacks. His creep spread on the left side is not so good. On the right side, it's still very far. It's creeping very close to Bomber's base, but Bomber's going to put down a scan and clean up a few of the creep tumors. But he doesn't notice that there's a huge Zergling and Mutalisk group here, and now that he's engaged in it, the mine takes down 1 Mutalisk and damages the rest. Bomber's still moving in, going to take down another creep tumor, and he's going to back off now. So most of that creep spread has been cleaned up by Bomber quite efficiently. The supplies are still even, but remember that Life does have the 4th base running. The Marines and Marauders are going to go into the 4th. The mine burrows itself. The banelings don't get great connections. A lot of the Marines are in red, but until they're finished, they're not dead, and they can chomp down on Mutalisk quite easily, but the Mutalisk bouncing glaive worms are going to finish off the rest of the Marines. And now, Life has a small supply advantage. If we take a look at the army supply, you'll see that Life has a small advantage there. And the medevacs are going to try and get away, but I think the Mutalisk is going to pick off a couple of medevacs, and he does. Bomber is trying to recollect himself. He still does not know his 4th is being contaminated with creep. And he does have his 4th being transformed into an orbital. Now, usually a lot of Terrans elect to get their 4th to lift it off as a command center, land it, turn it into a planetary fortress. But Bomber's going to go for the 4 orbital build. And actually building another command center, getting ready to put down his 5th. Another engagement at the top left base of Life, but that's a lot of ground units, and actually one of the medevacs get blown up with a full load of Marines. So these 8 Marines in the other medevac are probably not going to be able to do too much. That's a huge. What do you call a huge group of Mutalisks? Do you call them a pack, or do you call them a gaggle? Well, anyways, this huge gaggle, this gaggle pack, this pack of gaggles, is doing a lot of damage. And now he has a 25 supply advantage. He's going to pick off this other drop. This drop into this natural was thwarted easily. Bomber is going to go for the 3rd again. This time with a smaller group. Not going to split it up. That was a huge mine hit. Was able to pick up 29 kills with 1 mine hit. But Bomber is still behind. He's able to pick off the 3rd. But if you take a look at the supplies and at the armies, unless Bomber gets a lot more hits from Widow Mines like that, he's probably not going to be doing that well, as the supply advantage is still in Startail's favor. And the Mutalisks are coming back. Suspect there's going to be an attack at the bottom base. He's correct. It scares away this small pack of Marines. The Zergling, Banelings, and Mutalisks are roaming through the middle of the gold area, trying to see if there's anything going on. This one lone medevac gets away, the creep tumors are going to be able to see this drop, and this third is exposed. These two orbital commands cannot do much. One's going to get picked off immediately. The second one is under heavy attack. There's no missile turrets. There's only one Marine in that bunker. He gets picked off in 5 seconds, and now Life is in total control. He's got economic advantage. He's got army advantage. His army is eating through all the Marines, picking off SCVs, going back to the natural. Bomber thinks it's time for a counterattack. He's down by 30 supply. He's going to pick off this third or fourth. And but his natural and his main are now under constant attack. His production facilities are under attack. There's about 20 Mutalisks here, chomping away, eating at all the reactors and at the tech labs. So I don't think Bomber's going to be able to do too much. He picks up into the of Life's natural. Going to dump off here, try to do some more damage. But those banelings, if they get a few good connections, nope. Bomber elects to run away again, lift up into his medevacs, and see if he can go into somewhere else. But his main is being destroyed. I don't know if this is some sort of base race, but Bomber is not going to do very well, as everything is being destroyed. The barracks are being taken out. Things are on fire. The Mutalisks, I think, are just on auto attack with the Zerglings. There's nothing much going on here. There's a small pack of Marines at the natural. Medevacs are healing as much as they can. A few Baneling hits do a lot of damage. They don't kill the Marines, so these Marines are going to be able to do more damage. But I don't know where they're going to go now. Picking off a few Overlords is not going to save the day. Bomber's down by 70 supply. Everything's on fire in his main. He's doing everything that he can. He's still building Marines, trying to destroy these Mutalisks, but he's not able to do that. There's just far too many forces in his base, and his small group of Marines cannot do anything. There's a couple spine crawlers, and now there's Zerglings and Banelings coming in. So this group is going to get wiped up. So all we need to wait for is the GG. Bomber played his heart out. He went for the third early command center. It's kind of similar to what he did in the second game for the macro game. But once again, Life was able to thwart him at every move. Was able to stop every single drop. Lost his third. But at that point in time, Life already had a huge supply advantage, a huge army advantage. And by that time, Bomber didn't have a lot of choices. So Life was able to take Game 4 and is now leading 3-1. So let's take a look at Game 5.